Welcome everybody to my favorite kind of video, student success stories. And today we've got an interesting subject. We've got Gerry Reynolds with us. He's worked with the elderly population and in real estate and other capacities, and has success stories prior to taking the EARN course, but also after. So I'm really excited to kind of compare and contrast. So Gerry, welcome to the community.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. I like being here.
Let's tell them a little bit about who you are, your business, what brought you to the probate niche, and more specifically to this community.
Yeah, like I said, I've been in long-term healthcare for over 30 years, and I've been doing real estate consecutively for about 25. I'm an agent, so I'm not a broker. And one of the things over the years that I've always been interested in, when you're in a nursing home, I do food service. And everybody thinks a nursing home, you think healthcare, you think of the nursing and medications and stuff. But quite frankly, the first thing most people think about when they come in, besides the smell, is what is their next meal going to be? Needless to say, I've had hundreds and hundreds of meetings with families over the years. And once you sit down and start talking to them about their loved one and what their issues are and what they like, it always somehow ends up to how they got there and what happened. And mom fell down the steps and she ended up in the hospital. And the next thing you know, they're there meeting with me. And I've heard some horror stories in the past years. I've always tried to figure out, well, how would I be able to help these families? I mean, I'm a real estate agent, but it always seemed there was always a line there that I really didn't think I could cross if I started to try to say, hey, well, look, I know you have a house out here. I can help you sell it. Even though I would be doing what would be in their best interest, I just never felt it was the right thing to do. So I could never really figure out a way to bridge that. And then I came upon a course. That's what they're looking to do. They're looking to help these families prior to this happening, or right after it happens, to have resources to help them to figure out when they have to go into some sort of an assisted living or a long-term care facility, what to do. So many things are going through their head at that point. They don't know, first of all, is their loved one going to be okay? How are we going to pay for this? We've heard horror stories, these places. We don't know which, and so I can hopefully help with that. And then right after that, I came upon you guys and saw kind of how both things fit like a glove almost to me and how my mind works. These families need help as well. And sometimes in the long-term care setting, they might need some information that we can provide through the probate or vice versa. So they just kind of went hand in hand. And the people that I talk to now, I've had probate conversations with long-term care people and vice versa. So it does seem like they definitely cross lines here.
Yeah, that's something I've been trying for years to prepare anyone who will listen to me. Like, if you look at the demographics of what is about to happen, the nursing home, the long-term care industry has deemed that the Silver Tsunami.
Yep.
And they don't really have a plan. Their whole business model is heads in beds, but they don't have enough beds for all the heads. What's coming demographically, we're not really prepared from a simple supply standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint. No one really knows what the solution will be. So any professionals that can step into this and add value that hasn't been present in the past are stand to build a really lucrative career. So a lot of folks will come into this community and they'll learn about the real estate side of this, and then they'll start to actually have those real conversations and see the distress in people's faces and see what happens when a surviving spouse demands that they're good enough to be independent, but then they fall down and there's no long-term care plan. And then the family's thrust into this whole other thing of what are we going to do? What's rehab facility? So oftentimes we talk to real estate professionals who are looking to make connections in the long-term care industry. You kind of came the other way. So you came from the long-term care industry and saw the real estate opportunities. But let's talk about your history with attorneys, how you saw, like, first realize there was an opportunity to, rather than going direct marketing to the families, to actually build rapport with and establish a relationship with the attorney.
Well, first of all, when it comes to attorneys, like being in real estate, again, for the same amount of time, I've dealt with attorneys, title companies, and stuff of that nature. So I've been around attorneys before, so I know how some of them can be. And I've also been around the attorneys and such in the long-term care setting as well. So that also was not, new to me. But what I saw was that you specifically a lot, and a lot of the trainings that you would do and a lot of different podcasts always made it just as important, besides sending out the letters and making the phone calls, is to try to develop that referral base, that try to get those incoming, and that just made sense to me. But the problem with it is, as I think a lot of people find out, it's not easy to talk to attorneys. A lot of times you're scared to talk to them, or they can be kind of standoffish at times and that kind of stuff. So trying to break into it, that was going to be the difficult part.
And the reason it's not easy in 95% of cases has nothing to do with the attorney. that oftentimes becomes an external factor excuse. And we address that in the Earn course. Anyone who's taken the course will fully understand why I did what I did in the beginning. Like I tried to humanize attorneys by making the first third of the course is helping you understand an attorney is just a small business owner that took on $250,000 in debt on average, but they didn't learn anything about small business. As part of all of that debt and that stringent curriculum, they forgot to teach them that they were going into small business. The way I see most real estate professionals fall on their face, investors, brokers, agents, doesn't matter, is they approach the attorney like they have a mouthful of marbles and they're as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, and nobody trusts them because of that, right? It's like, well, hell, this guy's like, he's got confidence issues. So if you haven't taken the Earn course, that's a big, I mean, it's a third of the course content is really helping you understand that industry from the inside out to get rid of the fear and nervousness so you don't fail before you start. But I just want to be clear for the people who approach this with that, like confidently competent, it's almost 100% success rate. That.
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, my first success was, as we talked about, I called up an estate attorney, and well, actually, first what I did was I got on. He was offering a free 45-minute webinar, and if you signed up and went through it, then he was offering a half an hour one-on-one course to see. He was trying to drum up business. He was trying to try to get somebody to do a will or an estate or stuff like that. So I figured, if I was able to, I went through his. And then we set the time and he called me, and I was able to use that time to talk to him and explain exactly who I was, why I did it. And I told him, and right off the bat, I said, listen, I actually did this for two reasons. One is I do need to learn about this. I said, my parents are elderly. They do not have a will. They're a pain in the rear end to try to get to think they need it, to try to explain to them that they need a will. And then the second portion of it was to explain what my business was, that I had been in long-term care, that I do understand exactly some of the struggles that they have. This is what our company can offer to your clients. I'm looking to build out my referral base. Would you be willing to take me on if I had someone who is a qualified client? Would you talk to them? And that's kind of how we started. And then so now I have an estate attorney who I can refer, and I've referred one client to them. Didn't have any success, but he did call me back and he thanked me for it. And it's just that the family didn't follow up. It was a good quality lead.
If you're referring planning referrals, I would say 1 in 10 might stick. That's how bad it is. That's how hard it is to get an American to actually plan for their own aging or dying. So just make sure that you follow up with the referral too and say, hey, did you connect with Attorney Joe? But don't expect every single planning referral to stick. There's a reason less than 46% of Americans have a will. And John Fraker and I were on a call, I don't know, Friday. And one of the biggest challenges he has, and he gets paid either way, but he'll establish a living trust. And then he'll give them funding instructions. He can't do it. He can't move the vehicle titles. He can't go to DMV for them. Some things the attorneys cannot do. So the families just procrastinate and never do them. So when you send a planning referral, don't expect all of them to actually result in revenue to the attorney. However, the attorney is going to understand that's their biggest challenge. Their Achilles heel as a marketer is trying to find people who will actually sit down and begin and finish the process. So just make sure you're following up with your client, the referral, and you're following up with the attorney just to make sure. And it's going to show well for you. So I wanted to be clear, like if you take clients in for planning referrals and they don't actually engage with the attorney, you're not going to lose points for that, so to speak. They're used to it. It's unfortunately what the industry is built on, is procrastination and avoidance of one of the most important conversations that we should be having, right?
Yep.
I think you were one of the pre-launch purchasers, right? One of the early purchasers of Earn?
Yes. Yep.
What really stood out to you, like having some experience, having gone and actually done it and produced referrals, sent them to the attorney, followed up, doing everything correctly? How did it change how you approach attorneys?
I think listening to the other attorneys, I mean, I know it's always different in different states and stuff like that, but listening to the other attorneys and getting their opinion of what they thought was either a good referral, or when you first met the attorney, as you said, when you first talk to him, if you're talking to him on the phone, you go with a mouthful of marbles, so to speak. I remember John Fraker kept saying, it's always about the real estate professional or his perception of what our intention is with the client. And that to me has always been my number one thing in long-term healthcare. And so carrying it over into the probate space and talking to attorneys is no different. My biggest thing has always been the families and the loved one and the families. And I could never figure out a way to bridge I know I want to help these families, but I don't want to feel like I'm coming off as an ambulance chaser. And I just couldn't get that out of my head. As like, what can I do? How can I get around that? What's the easiest way so that these families don't think? And it wasn't until I saw you guys and realized that you're leading with the service portion of it. You're leading with we're going to provide a service to you, and then we'll earn our seat at the table to have the discussion about the real estate. And I think that basically I just kind of, listening to John Fraker just really brought that home, that when you're talking to these people, I mean, I know a couple of attorneys, quite frankly, who I wouldn't talk to just because I know I wouldn't want to work with them. So when I go in and talk to these attorneys, I'm hoping that they're going to understand that I am leading with service, and I want you to provide the same service to my clients as I would provide to your clients. That really hit home. Not that I didn't know it, but that actual attorneys are actually looking at that thinking, if I think this guy's full of shit, he's not going to, he'll be out the door in 5 minutes and I'll never do business with him again. And that's something that's prevalent throughout, but really with John, it was. And that was really the thing. And then just, I guess, when you listen to the attorneys and you do realize that they are just regular people, that there is a certain way they're professional. And if you approach them in a professional way, I think that you'll do okay. And that's, if I can say anything, that's one thing that I would say. And that's what really hit home with me with your course.
Indisputably, every attorney, when they look at the real estate industry, investors or brokerage, neither side is immune to this. The lack of professionalism and integrity is the biggest challenge they have in finding the right referral partners. But if you can offer the same fiduciary level of service, then this is going to be easy for you, because they will quickly see that. Like less than 20% of the industry will actually provide service at that level where they can really impress an attorney. That's why this can be so easy. A lot of folks approach this too formal in their initial introduction to the attorney. So they blow it because they're nervous and they've put this attorney up as it's like they're a god. And they mess up there. The other place they mess up is they just come in sloppily doing business like most real estate professionals do. They're not good with paperwork. They're not good with follow-up. They come in asking before they offer value. It's not hard to reach the level of professionalism required to really impress an attorney, but not very many people are even going to attempt it. So that's what makes this relatively easy space, because most people won't hold themselves to a higher standard. And I've heard so many people blame the attorneys. Oh, that attorney, I sent him referrals and he never has sent me anything back. I wonder why. Like, that's when you look inward, not outward. Like, he's not an asshole. He just doesn't know how to tell you, hey, man, thanks for the referrals, but you're not professional enough for me to send mine to you. And he should be a better communicator and help you improve if you've ever been in that situation. But most of the time, when a referral partner doesn't reciprocate, it's because you're not living up to their standards. And shame on them for not communicating that to you, because then you could improve. But I'm telling you, if that's happened to you, hold yourself accountable and look inward, not outward, and say, why is he not referring people to me? And improve, raise your standard of service.
Yep.
Let's talk about the next quarter and the next year. Like, how do you see this progressing? What ideas do you think you'll take from the course and actually put into play?
Well, I'm going to be transitioning out of my 9-to-5 job at the nursing home, because the responsibility to be there and then do all the other stuff that I need to do in this whole space is taking up a lot of time. So I guess what I'm trying to do would be, I have to figure out a way to organize, and that's going to be my biggest thing, is to organize all that free time I'll now have to making the phone calls. You got to make the phone calls. That's going to be the biggest thing. Pick cold call. I hear it all the time. The cold call and the marketing to the families is difficult, but you got to do it. There's no way around it. I don't personally think just sending letters out will do it if you don't follow up on it. You guys wouldn't be teaching the way to do it. If it was easier just to do it that way, everybody be doing it. So I'm going to spend probably a quarter of my time at least on the marketing, the letters, and then the follow-up phone calls. I'm also going to be spending time down at the courthouse. Part of, I guess, Bill Gross's portion of it, where he explained about how he became the probate expert out where he's at. I don't know if I'll be spending that much time down there. I don't like courthouses. I get a little bit nervous when I'm around courthouses, but I do want to kind of it's Orphans Court here is that handles the probate in Anne Arundel County where I'm at. And I'm going to get to know the people down there. I'm going to talk to the attorneys, and part of the probate lists that I get have a lot of the attorneys. So I'm looking to see which ones have 2 or 3 or 4, and I'm going to market to them. I'm going to call them. I'm going to set up a time to talk to them, whether it's show up at their office or a phone call. I'll get on. There's plenty of webinars and things that these guys do. And so I would say between the probate portion of it, it'll be 50-50 for 50% of the attorneys, 50% of the families. And then the other 50% of my time will be spent with the elder care portion of it. But again, that being said, there's a lot of elder care attorneys out there. And a lot of these attorneys, I'm finding out in these law firms, they do probate, they do elder care, they do it all in-house. So they all have somebody that does something within there. That's kind of in a nutshell, like how I plan to do it. I want to get into some of these, like the assisted livings and some of the groups that I know go out and meet, and the social workers and the people in the community. There's a lot of community-based things that go on, whether it's a budsman program, a lot of different programs out there that we can get our name out there in. So it's just going to be spend a lot of time marketing and getting our name out there. This is what our services are, but it's going to be heavy with the attorneys. And like I said, really focusing though on the probate and actually picking up the phone and making the phone calls, whether it's right now I have it. I'm not really good with like figuring out how many phone calls do I need to make to get a certain amount of yeses or touches, whatever you want to call that. If I can talk to 50 people in 7 days, but I would think I'd have some success if I'm actually able to talk to a live person, whether it's an attorney, whether it's a family member, whether it's a social worker. I should have some sort of success with that. But this can be done anywhere. It can really be done in any state. And I have connections up in the Pennsylvania area and the Jersey area. So once I learn it and get good here, it's something I can do pretty much anywhere.
You're really taking the overall probate mastery approach. I won't say it's 50-50, but one approach is to market direct to the personal representatives and families. The other is to build a referral network. Not so specifically that it's just an attorney referral network. And that, of course, that's where we talk about nursing home, clean out companies, senior moving companies, self-storage, estate sale companies, like getting those people who have care managers, social workers, people who have contact with families first before a death occurs or immediately after, before they would ever file probate. In my experience, personally and in coaching thousands of others, getting referrals from your referral network is way more rewarding, and the cash conversion cycle is way shorter than marketing directly to the personal representatives. Now, the barrier to entry for most people is usually lower in direct marketing to the personal representatives because they don't have to have so much mindset conditioning. They don't have to be confident when approaching an attorney. They can talk to a family member. So that's why we certainly teach both sides. But one of the things I'm really curious about is a year, 18 months, 2 years from now, how many people who go through the EARN course will even be sending direct mail and reaching out directly to the families anymore? One of my paid coaching students, he had closed over 100 transactions from one attorney relationship. He ended up sitting beside of a probate attorney at a wedding. He was a real estate broker, and they hit it off. And over a 10-year period, he gave him 100 closings, like 100 closed referrals. And it had been 2 years since he had gotten a referral from him. Somehow they lost touch, and Don just quit. He quit following up with him. He didn't ask him for referrals. And I was shocked. Don was willing to kill himself and just hammer through the phones and try to figure out scripts and how to talk to families when he already had the golden goose. He had an attorney referring him a steady flow. And I'm like, why don't you go meet more attorneys like that? So I'm really curious over time if the conversation will shift from working your ass off prospecting to families who already are getting called by people who are muddying the water, making a selfish offer. Will we actually in turn see more people doing the harder work? That it takes less work, but more preparation, mainly mindset preparation, of actually getting the business directly from the attorneys. Because you meet the bar, like you have the professional standards that the attorney would agree to refer to you. So I'm curious, and I'll give you your numbers. Statistically, you need to make 400 dials to have 50 conversations. To make 400 dials, you're going to have a pace with conversations and voicemail. You'll have a call rate of about 12 per hour. So you can do the math and back into that. That's how much work it takes. Like, you can absolutely make 7 figures in almost any market in the country if you just relentlessly pursue the first contact with family. That's the hardest thing, is getting people to answer the phone. If you have a valuable offer, it's easy once you make contact with them, but making contact is getting harder and harder. A lot of those folks, once they've proven to themselves once that they can walk into an attorney's office completely cold, uninvited, and offer one of the ideas that we share in the EARN course, they don't go back. They cancel their leads or quit gathering them at the courthouse, and they just get fed off of the attorney referrals. And frankly, that's my goal. That's why I think the course needed to be released. I'm very bearish on the economics right now globally. We're heading into a shifting market. And it's expensive to run campaigns to the families, where if you're actually building your attorney referral network, there's almost no cost. It's literally just you invest in a course to educate yourself. You invest some time into reading, listening to podcasts to build confidence and have a really strong offer. Then you just approach them. But there's no ongoing expense that just eats you up, especially if you have a couple of months where there aren't any closings. We've got sellers who are still clinging to paper equity, and we've got buyers who are too damn cautious to pay that price. So we've got this market going stagnant. So if you're struggling in real estate and you're like, I just need something, I got to do something, like earn, that was the intent. Like it was timed based on the market conditions I see. I believe over time, each student of Earn can earn more business from the attorney side than they can from their direct marketing to the family side. And I believe that they can do it with a much lower expense ratio. I want it to make attorneys less intimidating, so more real estate professionals are willing to put themselves out there as a valuable partner, and then in return realize I don't need to spend $1,500 a month on a website and a text message platform and email. All you need to do is have good rapport with the families. And the easiest way I've found to get that is by the attorney saying, hey, Chad knows his shit. Call this guy. It doesn't get any easier than that with the family. If you have a referral from an attorney, that stuff doesn't even matter because they already trust you. Like it transfers through the referral. So
I agree with you. I think that it's definitely, it's always going to be obviously easier if you have inbound referrals because you're coming from a place of trust if they're referring you as opposed to having to initially build that. And that's why I think when I was talking about the long-term care transitioning, that's basically the same thing. You're going to be asking all these people out there in the community to be referring you to the family. So they're going to have to trust you. If you get referrals from them, it's going to be a lot easier to have them call up and say, hey, can you go see Mrs. Jones over there at 123 Main Street because she's going to have a situation. I need you to go handle it in this way. Because they already trust the attorney. I'm going to assume if they're using the attorney that they probably have some sort of trust already built in there. You know what I mean? Same thing with the social worker in the community who's referring us because they help mom out and put her somewhere now that you need help. It's basically the same premise. So no, I absolutely agree. And I don't want to be spending hours and hours on the phone cold calling. So I think that probably in 6 months, you're right. I think probably 6 months from now, the conversation will be different. And wherever I got, whatever success I have, I think it's a lot more of it will be built off of the referral portion of it than the direct calling of the families from the probate standpoint anyway.
Yep. I want to be clear too, for anyone who's just getting started that doesn't have momentum in this space, if you really want to own this niche, you should be doing both. You should be busting your ass, sending direct mail, following every letter with a phone call and another phone call and another phone call until you've spoken to everyone on the list. If you are hitting your income goals and you're living the lifestyle you want, I would encourage you to move toward, the way I look at it is prospecting to families. You're unemployed every 30 days. You have to start over, right? Where with an attorney, you can impress him or her one time and create an evergreen source of business. What I'll say is if you're new in this, you should absolutely go earn your stripes, prospect your butt off, talk to these families, listen to them, have them cry on your shoulder in the initial appointment. So you can really be empathetic to their position. As soon as you can, build the confidence to approach attorneys and build your pipeline from that. Working with families is invaluable if you're going to own this space in your market, but working with attorneys is where you become a business owner. Prospecting to families is self-employment. Building a referral network and getting inbound leads is being a business owner. And eventually that will lead you to being an investor where you can actually sell that as an asset because it's that valuable in the community. You can step out, passively invest, go travel the world, do whatever you want. But I just want to be clear in that if you're one of those people saying, what the hell? I've heard this guy talk about prospecting to families for years. If you're in the beginning, do it. I want you to bust your ass because I need you to feel that pain to understand the value of an inbound referral from an attorney, like just how great that is, right? We all had to get on the phones and hammer when we didn't want to. And I think that's extremely valuable experience. But for me, in trying to help each person in this community work less, earn more, and do good in their communities, you need to kind of start with the families and move ultimately through to building a referral network. And attorneys, you can get referrals from nursing home social workers, CPAs, RIAs, but the most steady flow of consistent referrals will come from estate attorneys. So anyway, just wanted to be clear in that. I still support anyone who's prospecting families. Just know you're working harder than you will be when you actually get the attorney network in place. You're working a lot harder than you have to. Gerry, I've kept you for almost an hour. Any advice you would like to leave for anyone who's thinking of purchasing the course, or anyone who's purchased it and hasn't done anything with it? And then just any advice you'd like to part with. Any closing ideas or remarks?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, well, obviously, if you purchased it and you haven't finished it, I don't think there's a whole lot needs to be said about that. I mean, you spent the money now. You obviously were going to invest your time into it. And to me, it was a very, how can I put this? User-friendly core. I mean, with marketing to the attorneys and the software that you've come up with, I think that that is going to be a great, I think for me, that's going to be a great tool. That is going to be a great tool. It's part of what you paid for. You can work with this company. I mentioned it. Well, I said to you, Chad, about the one attorney that has the elder care and she does the whole gambit. And I said to her, I'm going to learn a little bit more about this before I present it to you. But it's something that I think that is, and she had never heard of it, doesn't know what it is. So it's going to be something I think that when you walk in, if you can present this to an attorney and you know what you're doing and you can explain it properly, it's almost a no-brainer to me. I would think as an attorney, if you're going to sit there and tell me you're going to present me with a client and they're going to have all this stuff when they walk in the door, basically, or beforehand. If you do nothing else from the course, that's what I would recommend. You learn that part of it, understand it, enroll, do it yourself. And then that's a tool that you can walk in confidently into any attorney's office if you have that and you understand how to use it. That gets you in the door.
What he's talking about, guys, is so we've integrated software into the course price. So by taking the course, you'll get a pre-designed campaign. The idea is to send the early first touch direct mail piece, but not bringing up real estate at all, not disclosing that's what you're after. It's simply, hey, we're sorry to hear what you're going through. We know how tough that is. In fact, we know so well that we actually have built a software tool we provide free as part of our social enterprise in the community. In order to get free software, please call us. And the whole idea there is to have a very low pressure, unintrusive touch of value in the mailbox, no matter how recent the death was. They call you to get set up as the admin, and then you will actually pay. We've negotiated so you can actually, per license is only $85. Someone else in the world has to pay $199 for the same software. In addition to that, as a student of the course, you're actually built into the software, into their database of professional providers. So when a family who is looking for a tool signs up for that software, you will have an exclusive right to be in there and in that zip code. So when they get to a certain place in a checklist, it'll say, be sure to check in with your probate expert, and your name and information will be in there. So what we're talking about is a combination of the concept, the direct mail piece that's specifically written to elicit a quick inbound response to get them set up with a free trial, and then the ability for you to actually see inside of the estate and literally just put your attorney's email address in and give them, by simply putting in their email address and assigning them to the estate, they can have a list of assets, a list of liabilities, a list of heirs, all the personal property, all the real property, everything that we, the attorneys, have to chase people for can be aggregated right there before they even meet with the client. So it's incredibly valuable to the families. It's incredibly valuable to the attorneys, and it can be incredibly valuable to you, the practitioner. I'm excited to see more people get their head wrapped around that and to put that campaign into use, because I think it's a very easy first conversation to have with the families. You're offering them software that has cost literally multiple millions of dollars to produce, and you're just saying, here's something for free. All you got to do is call me. So that's what we're discussing. The software that you'll find inside of the Earn course is there for you. You can get signed up today and start your own account so you can learn it and know how to talk families through it. But there's an entire support team. Any questions about the software, you just simply direct them to the support team. You don't have to be support. But, well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this time with Gerry. Gerry, tell them where they can best connect with you. Is it obviously we have Estate Professionals Mastermind Facebook group. You can probably find you there, but is that the best place to find you, or is there somewhere else that's easier to track you down if they have questions or just want to collaborate?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the easiest way. I'm on that every day. Yeah, my direct line is 410-274-1217. And if I could be of help, or if you have any questions, or you just want to bounce something, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm available
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to our follow-up interview to see how in 6 months this has progressed and evolved.
Yeah, me
And
too.
yeah, and congrats on making the jump from the W-2. I think it'll be one of the best things you've ever done. I look forward to having that conversation in the future too.
Chad, I appreciate it. I appreciate all your help and everything you do. So hope to talk soon.
All right, have a great day.
You too. Bye.